Awesome.
There we go. Sorry, I had another weird little pop-up, but we are on for our user management, user and instance management webinar that we're doing today. My name is Brendan, as you know. I'm definitely not AI. And I'm here with a face that isn't Joel's. Then I will toss it over to Jen for a quick intro.
Yeah, and I am Jen. I'm a senior customer success manager here at Agility, and I am definitely customer obsessed. Yeah, happy to be here.
And maybe AI?
Maybe. I mean, who knows?
I'm not saying you're not.
I'm not saying I'm not.
Excellent. Cool. So this is a little bit more of like a niche webinar. The recent ones that we've done have been more kind of like widespread, like new features, how to do like modeling and architecture, which is something that it benefits everybody to know a little bit, and I think this does as well. But it'll be more targeted specifically to people that are looking to understand how to manage their like administrative settings inside of Agility. So we'll cover a little bit about user management, like where you go, quick tour of like the settings area, permissions and roles, custom roles if you have that as part of your enterprise agreement. We'll look at org management, where to find it, little quick tour, user management, and how that differs in your org versus in an instance. We'll take a look at Teams, which is also an enterprise feature. And then if we have some time, we'll do a quick look at like reports and item level permissions and approvals. As always, this is like an AMA. It's a Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions and comments into the comment section, and we will get to them as we go through. Feel free to interrupt whenever you'd like. That being said, anything you wanted to add quickly, Jen?
No, I think that sounds great. I mean, anytime we're talking about organization, I'm in. It's my jam. So happy to go through this today with you.
Excellent. We can start with a quick dad joke. I see your plants in the background. What did one plant say to the other plant?
What?
I could use a light snack. That's pretty easy, right?
Oh, photons.
Photon joke. All right. So happy you could all join us today. All right. On that note,
awesome.
I'm going to share my screen. And what we're looking at here is basically just what you're going to see when you first enter Agility for the first time. Let me rearrange a couple of screens really quick. There we go. Where's my other one? There it is. Ready to rock. Cool. So when you first come in, we've seen this before. At the top of your screen here, you have your navigation bar. If you want to access your admin settings, you're going to pop over to the settings area. Super easy. Keep it near the top, right near your profile. And on the left-hand side, you're going to have user access. So this is where you're going to go to manage your users. You just add user, pop in their email, and below that, you're able to kind of go through and select a role for them. If you want to take a closer look at the roles, we do have a roles section further below that as well. And that's going to go over the roles that are available in your instance, as well as the permissions that they provide access to on the right-hand side here.
Now, Brendan, who can add a user in Agility?
You need to be an admin.
You need to be an admin.
To manage your users inside of Agility.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's a really great article, folks, in our docs that outlines all of those user roles and various permissions. And it's kind of set up in a hierarchy. So, the folks at the top, they've got the most permissions, and then it's going to get more granular as you read through the documentation.
Exactly. And I've actually popped the documentation over here. So if you want to get a more granular look at our roles as well, you can do that on your own. If you pop over to agilitycms.com/docs into the owners and admin section, down here under user management, you can take a look at user permissions and item and custom roles and user access. So if we pop into user permissions here, it's going to give you an overview of what permissions are, which is basically just the different roles and abilities that people can have access to inside of Agility. But it's going to break it down for you as well. So you can see it starts with like read level permissions, which is like the most basic. You can go in, you can take a look at everything, but you can't make any changes. You have the option to contribute, edit, approve, and these are all the different permissions that you can kind of mix and match to make roles. And Agility comes with a set of roles already. So we have reader, contributor, editor, publisher, etc., managers, and these are basically just a mix of different permissions that we looked at above to create these roles. So each of these roles will assign a different set of the permissions we looked at above.
Yeah, Brendan, Samantha dropped a question in the chat there. Is there a reason why a user would need to have multiple permissions? And I think it's that stacking, right? Just making sure that folks really only have the access that they need. I think sometimes what we see folks set up a lot of times, maybe they'll have multiple admins because they just aren't really thinking super granularly about who needs to be able to do what in the instance. So they just kind of set everyone at the admin level. But that's going to allow folks to be able to change models and maybe get into things that we want to govern a little bit more closely. So maybe they only need like editor access and then publisher access or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And also when it comes to permissions are just like the individual kind of like actions that they have permission to do, whereas each role is kind of a selection of those permissions. So each role would require multiple permissions to give them the ability to do those things, but not all of them stack. So if you want somebody to specifically be an approver, for example, when it comes to workflows, that's a permission or a role that you kind of have to assign separately to that person to give them access to those approvals. So going through those docs will kind of help you get familiar with the different roles and permissions that exist inside of Agility and how you can kind of mix and match them to give the permissions and the roles that you want inside of Agility. But then also as an enterprise customer, you have the option to have custom roles as well, which means you don't just have to stick to these kind of like pre-built Agility roles. You can kind of create your own, give them whatever name you want, and kind of mix and match these permissions to make more granular roles that make more sense specifically for your company. Cool. The next thing I wanted to take a look at was org level permissions and how those are different. Yeah. So if we go over and we go to your instance picker here on the right, ignore all the many, many different instances that I have, but if you click on the settings gear here next to your actual org name, this is going to pop you into your org settings. So this is more like the overarching permissions and settings for your whole organization rather than just one specific instance. So an org can have a bunch of different instances within it. You can see I have a bunch of different like testing instances that I like to play with. And then my org settings are kind of permissions that govern all of those instances. I can pop over on the left here to users. And from here, I can see all of the different users that exist inside of my org, as well as the permissions that they have. So I can add users directly from here. And from here, I can also make them an org admin if I want. So an org admin can manage teams if you have access to teams, install apps to your different instances, and they're able to basically admin your entire organization and the instances within it, rather than just one specific instance.
Yeah, we'll always ask for you to assign an org admin when you first set up an instance in Agility, because that initial org admin has to be set on our side. Yep.
From there, then, an org admin can add is, oh my God, I just lost all my screens. Hello, okay, welcome back. Thank you so much for your time. I almost lost everything, but we're fine. We're good.
We're good, and we're back.
While I'm looking at that, and while we're in here, I can actually take a quick look at Teams. So Teams is also an enterprise specific tool that you have access to. And you can find that on the left-hand side here as well. So if we pop into Teams, essentially what Teams allow you to do is create a team of users with specific roles or permissions. And then you're able to add that whole team to an instance, and they'll automatically take on those roles and permissions rather than having to add everyone individually every time.
Yeah, really nice for enterprise level customers to be able to have this level of management. We're talking, dozens and dozens of users. So this, really organizes that super nicely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really super easy to set up too. So once you're in this team section, all you have to do is hit new team. We can give it a name. We're just going to call it webinar because we're in a webinar. Once that's done, you'll have this pop up here, your new team at the bottom. you can go into edit, and from down there, I can decide who I want to be in the team. So I'll go ahead and add Jen, I'll add myself, and we'll toss Kevin and Poppy the dog into here as well.
Definitely need Poppy on the team.
Exactly. We can hit save, and now I have my new team. I can see it has 4 members. I can delete that team if I want to.
Awesome. Now, question, Brendan, that always comes up from customers when we're setting up teams.
Yeah.
You just added myself to a team. Now, if I was already in the instance and I had a certain level of permissions, when you add me to a team with a certain set of roles and permissions, does the team settings override the individual settings that I already had? I think so.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't tested that, and I'm not entirely sure. As far as I know, you can give additional permissions to a specific person within that instance, and your team permissions would kind of be your default permissions. But somebody feel free to correct me, and I will double check that afterwards.
Awesome.
From here, we can pop into an instance to actually try and add a team to that instance and give them permissions. So I'm going to pop over here to my test agility instance. Now all I have to do is kind of go back to that user access section that I was in before in the settings. So we're going to pop over here, pop into user access, team access. And from here, I can add a team role. So I can go down here. I have my webinar team now, and now I can select a role for that entire team. So I can go down here. Let's say I want to make my webinar team all designers. Then we'll go ahead and assign that role. Now everybody inside of that team will now have designer permissions for this instance. And it's that straightforward. Rather than having to go through, add every individual person, I'm just able to drop that whole team in here, which is really cool.
Awesome. Joel did chime in the chat, folks, and confirmed that individual permissions override team permissions. So that's cool when you have your team set up, but you want to kind of, like you said, Brendan, maybe tweak an individual's permissions. However, if you've got your individual settings all set up first, and then you want to do your teams afterwards, you might need to do some adjusting if you're looking at retroactively limiting permissions.
Okay. Cool. Appreciate that. The next thing I wanted to take a look at, if nobody has any questions about org management, but if you do, or teams, feel free to drop in the comments. We can always pop back to that. What we'll look at next is item level permissions. Again, I'm losing my windows. I have too many windows, but I appreciate all of you. Okay. So from here, we want to talk about item level security. So what item level security allows you to do is essentially add additional permissions for a specific user or for a specific team for a specific item. So say you have a person inside of your instance who just has like a reader level access. You don't want them to be able to go in and change a bunch of things inside of your instance whenever they want, but you do want to give them the ability to make blog posts, for example. You can go in to a content item or to a page and assign individual access to that item. So from here, in this 3-dot menu we've got, we can pop down to security and go to add security. You could add the entire webinar team to this list. Then you can give them specific permissions here. So I want to give them the option to delete as well, and maybe I want to give them approval permissions, which we can talk about in a bit as well when it comes to workflows. You can do that here and hit save, and now that team has special additional access to the specific content list.
Yeah, super handy, eh? Particularly when you're thinking about, teams who would really benefit in their roles to having access to some of the content in Agility. Like I'm thinking about legal teams, right? Maybe they just want permission to edit some legal information on your site, but they really don't need access to blog posts and other articles and things like that. Super handy.
Super handy. And this not only, like I said, applies to content items, but it also applies to pages in the exact same way. So we can pop over to the pages section and say I want to give somebody access just to be able to edit the homepage. I can go to the homepage and go down security, exact same way, and I can add specific security and allow Poppy to be a manager of the homepage.
I've seen some customers use this sort of permissions too, like when they're onboarding junior employees. Maybe they want to kind of ease them in terms of access, right? Maybe only give them access to, the couple of pages that they're managing, without having to risk the governance of your entire site.
Exactly. Got another comment here from Samantha. So Samantha says, in order to pick users for your teams list, you need to add them individually in the user access section. You not give them any permissions in the user access section so that you can add one permission to the team. Yeah, so when it comes to individual user access, you would just do it from the user access section, and give permissions just to that specific individual. Or you can do it like we showed, kind of like from the team section. So you can add for the entire team, give the entire team permissions. And if you want to give one person a little bit of additional access, you can do that from the user section as well. I hope that answers your question, but feel free to clarify in the comments if not. Awesome. Next section we're going to take a look at that we wanted to go over quickly is approvals and workflows. So you very well may end up in a situation where you want somebody to be able to create content, but you want to be able to review it first. We see this all the time, and it's super easy to set this up, and it's available to everybody. So you can very easily go into any content list, any page, kind of like we just did for security access. But in the property section of a content list, down here, you can go down in developer settings and you can check enable approval workflows on this list. And what that'll do is ensure that anytime somebody makes a change and goes to publish it, that it'll go into an approval state first. Then if you have somebody who has an approver permission set up on their user account, they'll be notified in app, hey, this new item is waiting for approval. They'll be able to go take a look at it, double check everything, make sure it all looks good. If it doesn't look good, you have the ability to decline that item, send it back. You can always leave some comments in the commenting section on that item with a little bit of context as to the changes you'd like to see. Allow the editor to make those changes and resubmit it for approval. And once everything looks good, you can approve it. They'll be notified, and they can finally publish that content directly out to your live site. So it allows you to have that little bit of added control in ensuring your content looks the way you want it to look, and everything is meeting your criteria before it gets published.
Yeah, and we recently enabled email notifications as well, right? For those sorts of workflows in Agility. Super handy because, your publisher, your approver rather, may not always be working in Agility, right? So you don't have to be in Agility to see that notification. You can receive it via email, triggering you to log in and take action.
And it's also set up so that if you do see the notification in app already, you're not going to get spammed with emails. You'll just be able to take a look, see the approval in app, and not get the email. But if you do miss it in app, after a few minutes, you'll receive your email notification as well. Quick question from Effie Ivan. Hello, what are we looking at here? So we're just doing a quick webinar. Thanks for joining us. And we're essentially taking a look at how to manage your users and instances inside of Agility. If you want to rewatch this webinar afterwards, if you missed anything at the beginning, it will be available on our YouTube. We'll post it up on our LinkedIn, and it'll be on our website as well if you want to rewatch it from the beginning. Excellent. Setting it up for pages, a little bit different for approvals. So what you're going to do is pop into whatever page you want to set up approvals for. Oh, you're not going to schedule it. That's not what you're looking to do. But you're going to head over to the property section, and you have a requires approval checkbox here as well. So once that is checked and applied, approvals will be enabled for this item. So at the moment, you do have to go into each individual item or each individual page. Not each item, I guess, but each list of items, each content list that you have, or each page to enable approvals for it. So approvals won't be turned on by default or on globally. You will have to go into each individual one and make sure that those approvals are turned on so that those workflows are enabled.
Awesome. Brendan, I think if I'm looking at the agenda correctly, we're going to chat a little bit about reports, but I think it would be cool just to look at your profile and show folks your options kind of under your user profile, because it's one of the things that your org admin or your administrator in your instance is going to be talking to users about, is just making sure that everything is set up in there. I know we did recently add the profile picture, and I so love that little personal touch, especially when you're in using collaboration features. It's just so nice to see that someone else is working in the instance and see their friendly face.
It does. It's one thing to see people's initials up at the top of the screen. It's another to see profile pictures. But yeah, super easy to set up. We can take a look at that first quick. So at the top here next to your instance picker, you can just click on your face. And below that, you have your profile information. So here you can pop into your actual profile. You can update your time zone and display language, manage your password, enable or disable those email notifications. So if you actually don't want to receive those emails, you don't want anything else popping in into your inbox, you can turn those off as well. And if we pop in here, you can upload your profile picture, manage your name and email, and save those changes. You can also swap out your profile picture as often as you'd like in case you just want to confuse people or you have a cool new selfie that you want to update. Awesome. Last thing we'll touch on quick. And like I said, anyone has any questions, we're kind of hammering through these things. It's a 30-minute webinar. Keep feeling free to interrupt, drop your questions in the chat, and we'll pause to take a quick look at them.
Yeah, and we're always available afterwards as well, right? I always tell people when I'm on calls, like my virtual door is always open. If folks want to chat about their usage of agility or how to maybe optimize, maybe you've got a new project in the pipe or you're onboarding new users, always happy to have those conversations.
Excellent. Cool. So next powerful thing you want to look at as an admin in agility is your reporting section. So if we go over here, you'll have a list of your agility reports. From the main dashboard below here, you can see a list of items that are ready to publish. I don't have any. And then you'll see an overview of your recent changes that have been made in agility. So you can see the title, the status, the language of those items, who modified it, and when it was last modified. And if you want to get a little bit more granular or see more detail, you can pop into the full reports. So you can see your recent changes here. When you select an item, you have a selection drop down at the top. So if you have items that are in staging here and you want to publish them, you can select a bunch and publish them. You can export your report. You can also filter your reports here as well by date, channel, user, or language. Below that, we have ready to publish. So this is where your stuff that's in staging is going to show up. I don't have any at the moment, but this is where it would all be listed. And from here as well, you do have that selection drop down. So you can go through your ready to publish things that are in staging, select multiple of them, and publish them, which is really cool. This is where your batches will show up. So when you're inside of a page or a content item, you can add your changes to batches as well. So say I was working through these different items, I have these things in staging, and I know that I'm going to want to publish them all at the same time. I can pop into my little kebab menu here, and I can go add to batch. I can go create new batch and make a webinar batch and hit save. And now I have this new batch here that I can go ahead and add this item to.
Yeah, super handy when you've got like a bunch of campaign assets that you kind of want to go live all together.
Totally. And then you can pop over the batches, see that batch, click on it, and you can publish it or do your approvals here as well when you want to push those through and just publish that whole batch at the same time, which is cool. And then below that, you have your user activity and your access report. Your user activity is essentially just going to give you a list of your login activity, and your access report, the access that's been granted. So you can see at the post, like this needs to be cleaned up a bit. We'll talk about our reporting updates that are coming in a second. But essentially you can see it's a list of the access that's been given. So you can see here when I gave the webinar team access to posts like we did earlier. This is just a running list of permissions changes and access changes that have been made in your instance. Cool.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, yeah, go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just going to say, you kind of alluded to it, but I mean, we are like reports is an active project right now at Agility. So we've got folks cross-functionally looking at these reports, looking at ways that we can consolidate, maybe bring information to light that's a little bit more valuable, or at least in logical areas. So we're hopeful to see some really great changes coming to reports over the next little while. And I think what I would ask of anybody who's watching is if you have thoughts on what you would like to see in reporting. Our feedback loop is always open. And that's not just as it relates to reports, right? Really anything in the platform you like, you don't like, maybe you'd like to see. We would love to have all of that feedback.
For sure. Yeah, I've been working really closely with our product manager and with our design team, and we're actively going through and making those reports, talking to users, figuring out what they want to see and what will be most powerful for them inside of agility. The reports that we have now are great, but to be able to get a little bit more granular with your usage overall in agility is going to be awesome, and to have these reports cleaned up as well, just so that they are a little bit easier to read and a little bit easier to export and get data out of. It's going to be exciting. Cool. Coming in close. Like I said, any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I also want to talk a little bit about the new Agility Academy course that we have launching. So like the last time where we kind of did our modeling and architecture course or webinar rather, and then launched the course afterwards, we're doing the same here with this user management. So we did kind of like rapid fire through these different sections throughout the course of this webinar. But if you want to get a little bit more granular with it, take a little bit more time, dive a little bit deeper into each of these different sections of user and instance management, you'll be able to do that with the new course that we have coming out next week. So it will be in the Academy, which you can sign up for at academy.agilitycms.com. And it's going to let you kind of go through at your own pace through each of these different sections that we talked about. And at the end of it, get a little certificate for yourself to show that you've become a genius of agility and user management, which I'm excited about. I think it's a really fun course. It's really interactive, and it gets you into a little bit more use cases and best practices for managing your instance.
Yeah, and folks will hop on over to academy.agilitycms.com, and they're going to find all the other courses that we've already launched as well, which are super, super helpful. You can do a course now for your editors as well, and lots of really great content coming out regularly on there. Brendan, you've been working super hard at the Academy.
For sure. Yeah, you're now able to go into that Academy and you can get fully certified on content management inside of Agility, if you're an editor or a marketer or content strategist. And it gives you those like groundwork and foundational knowledge that you need to kind of really like get all of the basics down for Agility and start becoming kind of like a power user in the system. It's great for existing users to do, but it's also great for onboarding new users. If you add a new team member, instead of having to like sit down and go through everything one-on-one with them, you can kind of like give this to them as like a precursor, and then you just really have to show them around the things that are specific and unique to your instance, which we can always help with as well.
Yeah, it's been really speeding up onboarding with new customers as well. They're diving into the Academy, really learning those basics ahead of time. And then when we get on a call with them one-on-one, which we always do anyhow, we're able to kind of focus on the specifics for their instance and their workflows and business needs. So yeah, it's been really great.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining this webinar. Happy Monday. Happy spring. Enjoy your April. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to, again, like reach out through the chat in app, reach out to myself or Jen directly or through our community Slack. Always happy to chat and always happy to answer questions even after the webinar.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.